I thought this day would never get here. Today's the day that I'm going to start installing my 3/4 inch RapidAir airlines. If you didn't watch the last video where I got this all configured and laid this out on the wall, you should probably go see that before you watch this. But basically, the regulator assembly is going to go right there. We're going to have an auto drain right here, and this back and forth stuff are cooling loops. We want a little bit of cooling before it goes on to the rest of the system, and then the system itself is going to go all the way around the room, which is the recommended layout. Let me see if I can find, there it is. This is from RapidAir themselves, and they recommend that you have a full closed loop going around the room, which is what we're going to do. We're going to have drops. We're going to have one drop there, one drop there, and there's going to be a drop over here that'll have an outlet on the inside and another outlet on the outside. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here though, because today I only plan on getting just this wall done, and then when I get a little further on the walls, I have to get that wall done next. Then we'll connect to the T and go all the way around to wherever the construction has stopped. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is mount the regulator just so I can double check. I do believe this is going to work out just perfect the way it is. This goes on right here, and then the whip should come around perfect right to that 90-degree elbow. But we'll get this in place first, and then I'm going to make a jig for bending this pipe, and we'll start bending the pipe and get this part done right here. Okay, I'm just going to mark lightly where the top of the regulator was, and I don't want to leave this tape behind the regulator, so we'll remove that. Okay, that is going to work out just perfect. There's no place for water to accumulate. Any water on this side of the regulator is going to drain back into the tank, and there's an auto drain in there. And anything on this side of the regulator is going to go down and go through this auto drain right here. And this drain will drain all of this stuff as well. And anything that makes it up into the lines that go around the room, those will drain into these here, and they have a valve at the bottom where you can release any water that gets in there. But over here where I have my sander, I'm going to have a water trap, or probably another one of these auto drains over there as well. Okay, you may have noticed that this is just loosely connected. I'm going to disconnect this and move the compressor out of the way, and then continue working on the air lines. And when I'm done with the air lines, I'm going to pull all the wire over in this area. I have to move the scaffold over here up into this area. And then once all of that stuff is done, I'll move the compressor back in place and connect this up, and we'll do the startup procedure and all that stuff. But that will be in a week or so. Today, we're just going to be running lines. I'll show you this real quick. I changed my layout lines because I had them on there incorrect. I had them 7 inches apart, and they should be 14 inches apart. To the outside, it's 16 inches because this is an 8-inch radius bend, and I chose an 8-inch radius bend because a 1-inch conduit bender has an 8-inch radius, so I can use a conduit bender on the 90-degree bends here, well, just here and here on this part, but up in the corners, it'll be just a 90-degree as well. And for these 180-degree, I made up this jig. I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but I'm hoping it does. So I can make a bend like right here and then take it out of the jig, and the jig will allow me to use it again on the next one and the next one. This is the right length right here so that I can keep flipping it back and forth. No idea if it's going to work or not, but we'll give it a try. Here is my straightened pipe. You can't get it perfect, but I will be able to get it a lot better once I start getting these bends in there, because the radius is going to be from here to like here, so we'll just have a tiny bit of straight pipe on there. And then up at the ceiling, it's just going to go between fasteners, and I can play around with the short sections between fasteners. It's never going to be perfectly straight, but it's going to be a lot straighter than this. For the first bend, I measured from down here, which is a little bit long, to the bottom of the radius. This is 8 inches down, but the diameter over that radius is right around 11 inches. So 11 inches plus 29 is 40 inches. And I'm going to give myself 3 inches of play. So we're going to cut, or not cut, but I'm going to mark the first piece with black Sharpie at 43. And then I'm going to line that up right here and then bend that down and wherever it wants to go. And then I'll remove the Sharpie mark with some lacquer thinner. Okay, if my calculations are correct, the center of this bend to the center of this bend over here should be 44 5/8. Right there. So I just clamped a shim onto here so I can hook my tape onto there. I'm going to measure over the 44 5/8, make a mark, and then I have to bend it up and all the way around. Okay, so far so good. Sticking up a little bit there, but I can easily bend that back. My next dimension is from here over 40 1/16, if my calculations are correct. That'll give us, well, that'll be right about here, and then we'll be bending 8 inches, and it should line up right with this one right here, if I've done everything correctly. So I just got to pop this out of there and then move it over here and bend it both ways again. With this last bend still in the jig, I measured from the bottom right here, which is that, up to where the ceiling is, and then I just eyeballed this when I have enough room for it, and that goes in a little bit into here, so it should be about right. Now, well, I'm going to cut this and ream it. I'll show you that a little bit later. But what I'm going to do is just weight this down right on one of the cracks in the floor here, and then get some of these kinks out. Got a nice kink right there. Well, not a kink, but it's just kind of bent goofy. So all I got to do is measure 14 inches between these, and that should be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to get a little better than it is and make sure that this line and that line are collinear. And I think we're just going to leave this end long until I get this other part assembled, because what I'm going to do is get this fixed into place, get this fixed into place, and then I'm going to drop that down just a bit so that I have drainage. And I'm going to do the same thing on all of these. So I don't know exactly what that length is going to be yet. So it's getting real late. The sun's almost down. I'll continue this tomorrow. Before I finish up with that cooling loop, I need to get this drain assembly completely assembled. I'm going to do that with Blue Monster pipe thread sealant. This stuff is really good. It's got a lot of solids in it. I'm going to be taking this piece off, just this 45-degree elbow, and putting that on here, and I'll put this 5-in-1 safety chuck on the end of that. And once I have everything tightened down, I need to get the dimensions. I'm going to be putting the 2 saddle straps on here and here, and I need to figure out how big to make my mounting block. I'm going to make that mounting block, sand it up a little bit, detail the edges, and I'm going to get that painted right away. And while that's drying, I'm going to finish up on that cooling loop, and then I have the other loop that comes down and attaches to here. The reason I'm over here is because this is the only place I got a vise. All right, let's get this assembled and get back to that cooling loop. Okay, there it is. I got it sitting on a little piece of scrap wood to check everything out, and that is going to work. I think I'll make it about yay long and probably 2.5 inches wide. I'll get some measurements and get that made real quick, and then we'll finish with the bend on the cooling loop there. These are the notes that I made last night on how to install this stuff, and I had it on here to make a mark just outside of the tape where the bracket goes, and then pull the tape off, screw the bracket on, and then slowly drop it down so that I have drainage. And that's what I got. What I did was installed that lower bracket and this bracket, then I slid it up underneath that conduit up there. Then I installed that upper bracket and just bent it out and popped it back in. This stuff is pretty flexible. And I've been checking with the level. I want it to be all the way to the side or just a hair more. I don't need a huge amount of drainage, but I don't want water sitting anywhere in this system. And these brackets are nice because they hold it away from the wall so that it'll get extra cooling. I'm probably going to put a small fan on the floor right behind the compressor, blowing up behind all this stuff, and that'll supply a little more fresh air to the compressor itself as well. So, where's my marks? You could see my marks, and you have to rebend this stuff. I'll push this up, and my mark is right there, but I should be able to just hold it right there and then see if I have the correct pitch, and I can see that I don't. So I'll go down a little bit lower and put a bracket on. I'll get rid of this tape first. We want to leave that last bit there until we get to it. And then I'm just going to leave it long down there, and we'll get our drain assembly assembled. Well, we'll get that blocking in there. Then install the drain install the saddles to the block, and then install the drain assembly onto here or onto the pipe, and then pop it onto those saddle clamps. That's my plan. Then I got this one and I am done. I ordered a cap for up there. I'm just going to cap it off. Still got to play around. Those brackets are plumb to each other. That's just the pipe curving like that. When I'm working up here, I'm going to be pulling wire into all these boxes. I'll get that nice and straight. I'll play around with this stuff here and there until I close this area off, which is going to be real soon, I hope. So, next bracket we'll go probably about a 1/4 inch below this line, and then we'll see how that fits and work our way down. I already have the lines on here, so I guess I could take that off. Oh, this has to come down because this went down. Otherwise, it's going to be right on the radius. All right, let's get this put in. Now, what I did was just hold this up where it needs to go, and then marked where it needs to be cut off, and then I went down about a 1/4 inch. I may go a hair more than that. That'll drop the unit down a little bit and give me drainage on this leg right here. Okay, I got this last one bent up, and on both of these, for the length, I just did the math, you know, the radii and stuff like that, and then added up the straights and then made it a little bit longer. This one, I made about 3 inches longer on both ends. And then if you lay the pipe flat on the floor and then just bend it up, and then hold it down with your foot and then bend that part back onto the top of something, both 3/4 and 1.5 inch work just great. And that'll give you a nice offset. I'm gonna bend this around a little bit more, but you can see it's got a nice offset there and a nice offset there. I'm gonna put 2 wall clips on here, get rid of the tape, and I'm going to wipe this whole thing down with lacquer thinner. Then we'll get our ferrules and compression nuts in place and tighten this down. Got to get back here to see the whole thing. As I mentioned before, I'm just capping it off up there, and I'll be able to use air right here until I get the rest of the system in. The next line will be from a T up there. It's going to go around, and then there's going to be a T right there. There's going to be a line that drops down right here. Then it's going to go to the corner, and it's going to T and go through the wall, and then another leg is going to go that way. It's going to continue all the way around the room and connect back to the T there. But I'm going to do it one stage at a time. As I put the walls in, I'll put another line in and then cap it off at the end and keep going until I'm done with both of them. This right here, this is just what I had on hand as far as fittings go, so I can use this without waiting for something. But when I get the part, I'm going to be taking it off right here. I'll be getting another one of these with a 1/2 inch thread, and that'll come out right like that. That's kind of goofy like that, but doesn't matter. So the next thing to do in this area is pull all the wires. Then I'll move the compressor back over into place, connect the whip, and connect the power to it, right like that, kind of a loop around to the front. And I'll be putting the feet on that. If you saw the last video, I explained that, but this is an anti-vibration pad, this square one. And because this has sharp edges on the feet right here, I'm going to be putting it right onto this hockey puck, and that'll go on top of the anti-vibration pad. That'll keep the unit from vibrating, and vibration is sound, and vibration is also movement. I'm hoping that it does not move because I don't want to bolt it to the ground. If worse comes to worse, I'll bolt it down, but I don't want to do that. And like I said earlier, when that's in position right here, I'll probably put a small industrial fan blowing up onto these coils, which will also add air for the fan right here for cooling the motor. Good, good, good. And I haven't figured it out yet. I have a drain, an auto drain for the tank, and this is the drain for this. But I got to run that down. I'll probably just run a piece just down to here and go into a little bucket or something. Same with these here. Run a line down to that same bucket until I figure out how I'm going to go outside with it. I can just go out with a straight pipe, but in the winter, there's a chance that it's going to freeze up and go all over the floor. And I'm going to need to get that figured out before I put all this stuff in. Okay, so next video is pulling the wires for this wall.